if you see me holding on to this chair tight, it's because we're sitting on the roof of the CNBC building. There are no safety barriers. There is a sheer drop here, but I'm with a man who's not scared of heights, with motivational speaker, adventurer, explorer, Springbok scout, and a man that most people refer to as that bucket list man, Robby Kojetin. It's lovely to have you here, Robby.
Thank you, it's great to be here.
So I can see you more relaxed here. You're not scared of falling over the edge. Robby, the first question I have to ask you, because I mean you've done a lot in your life and we're going to get to that in the program. Why do people go to such lengths to test human endurance?
That's a very interesting question. To go to great lengths, those sorts, it's a big world, you've got to enjoy it.
But in other words, why do you, there's a lot of training involved in that.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of risk involved in it. And yet you take on that challenge.
I think there's so much reward in exiting your comfort zone, getting out there, seeing amazing places in the world, experiencing it for yourself. I find nowadays we can experience the whole world from the seat of your desk. You know, you can click on Google Maps and see the whole planet. But to really experience it and live it and be there in the moment, I think that's something that's got to be on everyone's
And you
list.
convert that. You convert your experiences to other people.
Yes.
You give them the benefit and you try to get them to enjoy what you do. Now, not everybody has your physical strength or maybe even your mental strength. How do you get them to enjoy it as well? You know, how do you test their levels as well?
I think one of the best things, one of the greatest gifts of me being able to speak to people is I get the chance to inspire them. I have a gift of inspiring people by saying, this is what I've done, but I'm saying go find what it is that makes you tick. Not everyone wants to climb Mount Everest. In a population on Earth of 7 billion people, only 5,000 of us have done it. I think mostly because the other mass don't want to. It's really cold and it's really far. And I'm not saying you have to climb a mountain to experience life.
Tell us about Everest. I mean, it's an experience, as you say, very few people have done. How did you know that you had the physical ability to do it? You know, in other words, when did you say, I'm going to do it?
Half the adventure for me was not knowing whether I could do it or not.
Okay.
It was part of for me, when I was 15, I saw that picture of Tenzing Norgay on the summit, that first photo, and I said, that's me, I'm going. I had no idea where it was, what it entailed, how much it would cost, but there was just a little fire started.
Now, as a 15-year-old, I mean, where were you brought up? What was the background that made you do it? You know, were you one of these kids that climbed to the top of the tree and drove your mother mad? You know, and she sat there absolutely petrified that you were going to fall down?
I'm one of 3 boys. We were always involved in the outdoors and adventure through scouting, something I'm very grateful for. And my mom always jokes she had her own parking bay at the Rose Acres Clinic. It was either stitches or broken arms or something. But yeah, we did live quite an adventurous life. And just to get out there and, you know, we were never a TV games family.
Where were you brought up?
I was brought up on the East Rand in Germiston. Yeah. So
I'm trying to think of mountains that you could have climbed in Germiston.
Nothing. There's a couple of mine dumps, but even those have been reprocessed and they're gone now. But yeah, through scouting I got to experience the Drakensberg.
Is scouting still?
It's
still popular?
Going. It is. It's not as popular as it was. I mean, it's a different world we live in. It's a safety issue. There's a number of things. There's so many other things for kids to do, but it is still going and it still works. I took the World Scout badge on my Everest down suit to the top.
How do you attract kids to become scouts? Now, I say that because most kids today want an iPad. In fact,
absolutely,
one of the biggest programs that's being sold at the moment is a program that allows you to watch other people gaming. In other words, you can, I mean, it's crazy. How do you get them away from sitting at home on an iPad watching these games and rather experiencing those games for themselves?
I think there's a bit of give and take on both sides. The parents have got to encourage the kids to get out there more. The black box babysitter, the TV, that's become a big problem. And the scouting program needs to evolve as well and incorporate things like iPads and digital geocaching. All of these things are available. Use Google Earth instead of an old fold-out map. These sorts of things are available, and I say bring them in. We've got to change the program to interest the kids, but also the kids have also got to be pushed out of it.
Do you talk to kids?
I do. I do
A lot of kids at schools.
It's been an absolute mind-boggling. Since I got back from Everest, I've spoken to over 10,000 children.
Tell us about
all
Everest.
You know,
that's something, as we say, no one does. But
Absolutely.
Tell us about the preparation and what you went through.
One of the most difficult things for me with regards to Everest is trying to explain to these people that have absolutely no concept. So often I get said, people say to me, oh yeah, my secretary did Everest. And you say, don't you mean Kilimanjaro? I go, is it not the same thing? And that's quite a frustration. But to put a journey like that into a couple of sentences is really difficult. It took 3 years of my life.
3 years, yeah. That's
3 years of my life, training, preparing, finding the money to do it. It's an expensive trip. You're looking at R750,000 for one person to do it.
Did you find a sponsor?
I was sponsored. I was very lucky to be sponsored.
So you walked up there with badges on?
No, not really. It wasn't a corporate sponsorship. They covered my hard costs and aided a fundraising project. So we were able to donate money to cancer-related charities afterwards. People came out of the woodwork from everywhere, from PR companies to pharmaceuticals. They all just wanted to help because of a good cause. The Everest trip itself, you're going to be away from home for close on 3 months. Mainly most of your time is spent sitting around doing nothing. It's a 10-day walk to base camp.
Okay.
Then you have a week of resting and acclimatization, because now you're basically at the height of Kilimanjaro. 5,500 meters is where you'd start your climb. After a week, we then climbed a nearby peak.
We're in Joburg, you're 1,600 meters up here.
So 1,600 meters is what we live at.
That's your base camp.
Absolutely. Your body needs to acclimatize, and how it does that is by producing more red blood cells, so you have greater oxygen absorption possibility with less air up there. On the summit of Everest, there's 25% of the air we enjoy down here. So if you were to go from here to the summit of Everest in a magical cable car, if it was possible, you'd probably be dead in about 30 minutes.
It's a slow journey.
Absolutely. So we move up higher and acclimatize, come back down. Move higher, establish a new camp, come back down, and then wait for a weather window till you can actually get up there and
You're
tag
obviously
the top.
with experienced climbers.
I was very lucky to be part of an international climbing team, HIMEX, run by Russell Bryce. He's never ever lost a climber. And there was one.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Let's go lost. You mean lost, wandered off, or lost, falled over?
Lost as in dead.
As in dead.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's never lost a climber, and he's been on the mountain for 21 years now, and he knows what he's doing. His logistics and that are superior, and that was one of the reasons we went.
Robby,
with them.
what did you find? What was the hardest thing that you had to face? I mean,
Sure.
What is fatigue? What is, give us a description of what it is.
One thing I can say up front is everything you know about fatigue and your personal limits are absolutely wrong. I found myself very often turning around going, I'm higher than I've ever been in my whole life. I didn't think I'd get this far, but I did it. And then the next day you're moving on to a new camp, which is 1,000 meters higher, and you're going, I don't know if this is possible. And you get in there and you go, I did it. So it was really nice to sort of rewrite what I thought were all my limitations. What I did struggle with was a previous accident about 8 years ago. I broke both of my legs. And there's tendon damage and there's scarring and all sorts of things that were a physical hindrance. But it was a decision to just carry on. One step, left foot, right foot, carry on. That's how it's done. Absolutely.
That's all head.
It's 80% training from the neck
And
up.
what do you eat along the way? I mean, how do you keep your physical being strong?
In base camp, we ate relatively well. It was a mixture of Nepalese traditional food like dal bhat and those sorts of things, and some Western luxuries. We were quite lucky.
You couldn't get a KFC or a burger on the top there.
No, nothing like that. But we were quite spoiled. One day a chopper came in, and Russell organized for Norwegian salmon to be dropped off.
Okay.
So that was an absolute treat after living in the dust for 17 weeks. As we go higher up the mountain, we eat freeze-dried food. So it's like a big Ziploc bag. You add boiling water, wait for it to soak it up, and then eat it. But by the time we got to 7,500 meters, you are in such a state of shock and exhaustion that we weren't able to eat without being nauseous. So we were living on those goose sachets that the comrades runners use.
Yes.
Basically corn syrup and water.
And finally getting to the peak.
That was an absolute moment I could never relive. I spent
Lump in
22
your
minutes on
throat.
top. I cried like, yeah, a lump in the throat that was nothing. I sobbed. It was the realization of a lifelong dream. You know, to put it into perspective, I dreamt of it for 15 years. I lived in a tent for 3 months to get up to the top of the hill and spend 22 minutes. And then it was time to go down again. But those 22 minutes, the world stood still. Everything made sense, and I knew
Could you email pictures from the top there?
No, we couldn't, not at that stage. We could have done it via satellite, but we didn't have the technology at the time.
So Robby, what's next? What, having done something like that, there's got to be more and more challenges. What's your next challenge?
It's very tough, but that's sort of, everyone says, well, you can't climb anything higher. And I had to adjust my mentality. It's not now about going higher, it's just about going. Since coming back from Everest, I've done things like the Ironman triathlon. That was a massive challenge for me, especially running 42 kilometers on, you know, prosthetic ankles. But there's always something on the go. At the moment, I'm going to be taking another group of people to Everest Base Camp at the end of September. That's an exciting
thing. Do you
thing
choose those people? I mean,
no, not at all.
So how do you know, how do you, in a group like that? I know everybody wants to do these team building things and that, but at the end of the day, it's your responsibility. How do you select them, and how do you know that you've got a group that are actually going to be able to make the grade?
I work in conjunction with a tour operator, somebody who specializes putting these packages together. And I'm asked to be there because of my experience, because the group, we don't know how they will react or what their experience is or their fitness levels. And part of my personal challenge is to manage that, to monitor the individuals and see how are they doing, who's coping, who's not, who needs a bit of motivation and who's physically needs to be turned around. I've led Kilimanjaro trips, Mount Elbrus in Russia, and there are moments where you actually feel like the devil himself saying to someone, sorry, if you carry on, you're going to die. Yeah. And I need to send you home now, and they hate you. But, you know, a couple of hours later, they kind of realize that you made the decision for their safe being.
Robby, you married?
Yes. Yeah.
Does your wife share your passions?
To an extent. My wife has climbed Kilimanjaro with me. Okay. My last summit of Kilimanjaro was with her. That was something spectacular to share, for me to share my passion with her. And yeah, she's thinking about climbing another couple of peaks, but she also knows her way around a shopping center. So it's a nice balance. She has that adventurous spark that I love about her, but I don't see her climbing Everest with me. 3 months in a tent there's a few stars missing from the hotel rating.
Yeah, it's a great answer for marriage. That's 3 months in a tent.
Marriage test.
Robby, we're going to have to cut it here. I'm feeling much more comfortable. I don't feel so bad looking after the edge after what you've gone through here, but it's I really wish you well in your ventures.
Thanks
and I know you're a man that we're going to hear a lot more of.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
You've been on the couch with Robby Kojetin and me, David Shapiro.